All right, guys, we're back with another episode of Talking Preps. We were just having an NBA discussion offline. Gary was saying how big a fan he is of the Charlotte Hornets. Are the Hornets back, Gary?
They're healthy. Let's put it that way. They're healthy. If they stay healthy, they make the playoffs.
Richard, what did you just say the Hornets were in their last 13 games?
With this starting lineup, they're 12-1.
12-1.
They've won 6 in a row, the longest winning streak in 10 years.
Gary, that'll make the playoffs.
I would like to see it. I'd buy a ticket again.
Can I get a Charles? Can I get a Charles Barkley? Can I get a Charles Barkley Randall? They going to the playoffs. Can I get a Barkley?
Guarantee.
All right, let's start the show. All right, the big news last week was the weather. His games got moved all over the place, but we did get some basketball in, guys. We did see some games on Thursday. West Charlotte and North Meck played. That was a very big game. North Meck came from behind and beat the Lions at home 69-64. And then after the game, we heard from Dwayne Lewis.
Well, tell me about holding on and winning the game. I've got it being the 19th in a row for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it was
13th in a row, sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many it is, but we were just excited to come up here and get a win. You know, we know that, to upset them because, they're ranked higher than us in the Sweet 16 and, the Phenom Hoops Bowl, but to come over here and get an upset on the road, we were really pleased about that. Tough environment, great crowd. And again, we held on. Wilson getting hurt us, my point guard. So
a tooth or what was it?
Jaw, I think.
Okay.
I'm not sure yet, but him getting hurt, that put us in a little quandary there with handling the ball. So we were up 9 or 10 when he went out, but they made a good run there. We made some unforced turnovers that led to layups, but then DJ made the big free throws there, and we closed it out. So happy for the guys, and like you said, to come over here to West Charlotte and be the underdog and get the win. We're pumped about that.
What can you say about the way it ended? I mean, not the way veteran high school coach was at the end, I guess, after the game.
I didn't even see what happened. I don't know. I shook hands with the guys the way you're supposed to, and I'm not sure. I wouldn't even comment on anything like that because I don't know. I didn't see what went on. But, there's always a lot of emotions going on in a game like that. And like I said, I'm just glad that we came out on top. And, now we play tomorrow. We got to come right back out and play tomorrow at 6 o'clock against Mallard Creek, who's a really good team.
All right, so we did see the North Meck come back the next day and play Mallard Creek. Richard, your thoughts of seeing that West Charlotte game? We're going to talk about the aftermath later in the show, but your thoughts about the basketball for part of it.
Well, on the court, West Charlotte struggled pretty significantly with what North Meck was doing. They're down 11 with 3.5 minutes to go, and then all of a sudden, like you said, Wilson Estrick had some bleeding. He got popped in the mouth. They took him out of the game. Mm-hmm. West Meck didn't look like they didn't know what to do with the press, and West Charlotte really had a chance. Both teams had 3 possessions after it became a 1-point game. Neither one could score. Right. And then, North Meck hit 4 free throws in the last few seconds of the game to close it out. So it was as expected, as billed, as we thought it would be, an exciting finish, an exciting game.
Rick, do you think these are 2 teams that could win state championships in the 7A North Meck, 8A West Charlotte?
Absolutely. I think if you look at our polls, I think both of them are probably going to be favored to probably win the West. I think, North Meck may have the tougher matchup, especially with Durham Southern. They're pretty good, and they've beaten some really good teams during the course of the year. But I would think those 2 teams would be the heavy favorite in the 7A, and I still think, West Charlotte would be the favorite in the 8A.
Gary, that game was sold out. Steve Wilkes was there, your buddy, former Panthers coach. Isaiah Evans was there, the former North Meck star. The atmosphere of those type of games is what you want for high school basketball, right?
Oh, it definitely is. But, on the other hand, West Charlotte sold too many tickets because they were 3 deep on the baseline.
I think it was more than that, but yeah.
On both baselines.
Yeah.
So, and don't get me wrong, they had plenty of security. They had plenty of security, so that wasn't an issue. But and like you said, we'll talk about it later. But it was jam packed, and so we had this. I won't say a lull. It was forced by COVID, but I think basketball, as far as popularity is concerned, is back to what it was prior to COVID.
Really? Wow. That's
I said popularity. Now I'm not saying the teams are.
No.
That goes in cycles, But
that's
as far as the interest in the game, I think it's back to where it was pre-COVID.
Okay. And then on the girls' side, we saw Randall, Charlotte. I'm sorry, I'm tongue-tied. Cannon School played Providence Day. The game had been postponed because Providence Day was going through a flu bug. They come out to play. Jenny and DeMont still not playing for Providence Day. Cannon won the game, and then afterwards we heard from their head coach, Kevin Drake.
So, Coach Drakeford, y'all just won 53-41 over Providence Day School this evening. What are your impressions from this game?
I thought we played really well. I thought it was a rough start going into halftime, 19-18. No true flows for the game with a lot of whistles and back and forth. But I thought the second half we adjusted really well to the whistle. We started to defend the way we were capable of defending, and we were able to kind of create a lead from there.
Are you happy with what you're seeing from the team there in the second half?
I am very happy from what I'm seeing. I thought people that came in off the bench stepped up and really helped lift us. And I thought our starters played well for the most part too. So it's going to take a total team effort for us to reach the goals that we want to get to.
When you're looking at this game, is there anything in particular that you think your team needs to still work on?
I think offensively, just really trying to figure out what they're doing as a defense. Coach Springer does a great job of throwing different looks at us. So just really being poised and having a good basketball IQ to see what they're in, what can we do to execute against their defense.
Providence Day was the team for so long, but since 2020, Cannon's kind of been the team. Is that trend going to continue?
As of right now, yeah. Girls basketball is a little bit different. It's kind of one of those situations where, the team that's popular, that's where people go. And that's why they have a huge bench, because a lot of kids want to play for Drakeford. A lot of kids want to play at Cannon. Cannon wins. And we're in a time where that matters. So I do believe so. To piggyback on what Coach said, though, I thought the young backcourt of Larkins and Truesdale played really, really well on Thursday night, excuse me. They handled PD's pressure, and as to sometimes where, with young players, you can get in that situation. They can the lights can get too big. I thought both played with great poise. London had 15 points. Red had 8 points. They both, led the team in scoring. It's just really, really impressive how they handled, the different looks that Coach Springer gave them, and really never allowed themselves to get sped up and then didn't have, too many crazy turnovers, just throwing the ball over Jim.
Now you got to turn around and play them again this week. That should be interesting.
You get to be at home this Friday, so I'm sure they're happy about that.
Get to be at home. Also on Thursday night, North Mex girls could have been looking ahead to Mallard Creek on Friday night. They took care of business, and we heard they beat West Charlotte, and we heard from Autumn Lacey after that game.
Well, the coach said you hadn't practiced since Wednesday. How easy was it to kind of get back into the flow?
It was hard at first because I was a little bit sluggish, but we all got ourselves together and we started to catch up with the pace, and we started to work hard, and we just played as a team, and that's how we got the win.
Well, the press seemed to get y'all really going early. I think you scored the first 16 or 18 points of the game. Was it kind of important to kind of establish that press would really work for you?
Yes, it was important to be a player that helps out with the whole team, and that just for Temple to be a team player, that's number one. Number one is being a team player and not just being all about myself.
Obviously, a big game tomorrow. They beat you the first time. No need for motivation or motivational speeches. What kind of is your the team's feeling going into that game?
Oh, we're ready. We're ready. That's all I'm gonna say is we're ready.
And Gary, they were ready. Your Mallard Creek friends want to hear what you have to say, because North Meck jumped on it from the beginning, up like 20 points early.
Well, I'm going to use a boxing analogy.
Okay.
You know,
But
everybody
hold on. But just for the people at home, North Mac won by a lot on Friday night against Mallard Creek. They came out in the press. Mallard Creek really didn't handle it very well, and it was a blowout from the beginning.
Yeah, they came out and North Mac punched first, and Mallard Creek never punched back. Never punched back. You know, sometimes a team can get on a run on you, and you call a timeout and settle down a little bit and kind of get your poise back.
Yeah,
Mallard Creek never got their poise back. They took a beating all night long. Okay, and I know the paper said I picked North Mac. That was a misprint. I'll own up to it.
all on the sword.
Yeah, I'm falling on the sword. I picked Mallard Creek because I'd seen too many instances where North forgot who the best player on the floor was, which is Lanice Joseph, and they didn't even have to remember because they just. First, I want to give the coaches 2 pieces of credit. Okay.
Right.
First, Coach Baker, when she came out in the press, not only did she pressed with her big people, her with Lanice being the biggest up front.
Yes.
And the smaller Mallard Creek guards couldn't see over the traps, you know, and that's hard to get big people to trap without fouling, but they did. And the smaller Mallard Creek girls could not see over that press. And then the quicker North Mac guards being in the back, they were able to intercept a lot of passes because they were lobs. They were lob passes trying to get out of the trap. So kudos to Coach Baker for that. But sometimes you have to give a coach credit in losing too. And I'm going to give Coach Dixon credit for this. Okay. Once she realized her girls didn't have it, she took them out. You know, she didn't say, well, let's see, can they get a rhythm for the next game? Let's try to get our confidence back. When you get beat, a loss is one loss in the column. It doesn't matter whether you lose by 2 or 3 points or 20 points. Okay. Right. It's still one loss. And, you know, there are too many times where coaches, you know, they won't throw up the white flag. They won't surrender. And an important player gets injured in a meaningless minutes.
Right.
You know, so she saw by the third quarter, midway through the third quarter, her girls didn't have it that night. She pulled them and she never put them back in. They didn't play the whole fourth quarter, her starters. So most coaches don't, you know, they have too much ego to surrender, you know, but it was nothing to be gained by them playing 5 or 6 more minutes. They weren't going to win. They could have been playing all night long. They weren't winning Friday night. So she saw that. She took them out. And so we have to get ready for round 3, see what the counter is, because I'm pretty sure they'll be playing for the conference championship.
If there's a conference championship.
Yeah, if they play it. You know, I don't even know why they would need to play rounds 1 and 2 because it wouldn't be close. Just let those 2 go play the championship and get the trophy. One of them get the trophy, and that'll settle this year which team was better.
What is the adjustment, Coach Richmond, for Mallard Creek to try to make if there is a round 3?
Well, the adjustment is they're gonna have to get through that press because they're gonna see it again. You got to prove that you can do something to counter it. They usually have a counter, but they're going to have to find that press. And not only that, when they got through the press, their people missed layups. Their starters were missing layups. Yeah. They just had bad body language all night. And I think Coach Dixon got tired of looking at it, and she just pulled them and said, we'll see them again in a couple of weeks. And
it also sends a message to the starters.
Huh?
It also sends a message to the starters.
Yeah, it does. It does. You're exactly right, Rick. But you know, a lot of coaches won't do that, and that's where you have injuries. Right. When you can't win, and you know that's what's cost Mallard Creek last year. They had injuries at the end of the season that they couldn't recover from, and that probably cost them the opportunity to play for state championship.
Richard, what did you see there in person watching this game?
Well, I'm going to say it's a 2-game set because earlier in the year, we were kind of questioning, or there were some questions about North Mac lengthening out their bench. It seems to me now she had a method to her madness, getting Morgan Knox involved, Autumn Lacey involved. Stephanie Mobley has really improved as a senior point guard.
Yeah.
I mean, to think that they went a week without practicing. Their last practice was a week ago Wednesday. They played Thursday night, and then they turned around and played Thursday and Friday night without practice, just walkthrough sessions, and did that to those two teams. I mean, at least Mallard Creek was somewhat competitive. West Charlotte was never competitive against them. So for 2 nights, North Mac couldn't have asked for a better ease of winning in both games. And like you say, I mean, Coach Richmond's right. Those coaches deserve a heck of a lot of credit because they took real significant inventory of the loss over the holidays and the loss at Mallard Creek, and they're a lot more improved team since then, for sure.
Gary, Mallard Creek is an 8A team. North Mac's a 7A team. The same question asked about West Charlotte, North Mac, and the boys. Are we looking at teams that can win an 8A and a 7A state championship?
Yeah. I mean, I think Mallard Creek will recover. I think what they need to do now is they got to get their bench established a little bit better. One thing that this game pointed out to me is their starting 5 can play with anybody.
Yeah.
Once they go to their bench, there is a big drop off. And not only did Mallard Creek beat them, they exploited their bench. When your 5 is trying to press or come out of a press and come back, that takes a lot of energy. And you need to be able to go to your bench at least 2 or 3 deep and relieve your starters. And Mallard Creek didn't have that luxury.
But now that Mallard Creek's seen that card, is round 3 more of an even match? Because they won't be surprised again. Coach Dixon's one of the best around.
Yeah, but now I think North is the favorite going into this next round. See, the thing about not only what North was able to do, when Mallard Creek can't score, they can't set up their press.
True.
So they weren't able to press North because they weren't making baskets. So they couldn't set their defense, and a lot of stuff for North came in transition. So they didn't even have to worry about forgetting about Lanice because they were always in transition and making easy baskets because of the steals. But if I'm Coach Baker, I start looking at Lake Norman film, and we work on things now that's gonna help us for Lake Norman.
Lake Norman's gonna press you. So
that's their bugaboo the last couple of years is Lake Norman. So now is the time to start working on it because they're not gonna have another tough game until they play Mallard Creek in the conference championship.
And to Gary's point, North Mac had 11 girls scored in the West Charlotte game, 8 in the Mallard Creek game. So they're getting a lot of production from a lot of people. And we know that Mobley and Joseph are really significant players, but they're getting a lot of significant production, particularly from Knox. Autumn Lacey's a freshman and is continuing to get better. So, the future looks really bright for North Mac, regardless of what happens this year. But like Gary said, they've got to be looking at Lake Norman going, how can we now navigate that? And can our press defeat them?
Lake Norman.
That's an interesting debate. Should they meet?
Lake Norman's like Isaiah Thomas's Pistons to the Bulls back in the 80s. They can't quite figure out a way to break that press and get past him. All right, let's look at some players of the week from last week. Rick, Nasir White and West Mac just continue to surprise people. A couple of weeks ago, they beat Myers Park at home. Now they take down Huff for the buzzer beater. Mr. White had 14 points, 4 steals, and game-winning bucket. Just your thoughts about the turnaround of West Mac from 0-25 to like 11-8 right now.
11-8, and also 4-2 in conference play. And I was watching that game on the live stream, and what was remarkable about that game, they were down three points with 12 seconds to go. So they actually scored with 1 second remaining. They called a timeout, and then Huff was taking the ball out, and the player got a deflection and a layup at the buzzer to win the game by 1 point.
Yeah.
But also what I alluded to last week about Coach Chris Ewell is he's one of these guys that really is demanding. He's one of these guys that never quits. So, in a game like this, he's probably calling that timeout with 1 second to go, and he's making sure those kids believe that there's an opportunity to win, and they did.
Yeah, that is one of the most incredible turnarounds I think I've seen in a long time for West Mac. They've actually won as many games as they've won in 7 years with the good half of the season to play, depending on how long they run in the playoffs.
Well, and also, you have to remember too, they beat two teams that was ranked in the Sweet 16 in Myers Park and Huff, which Huff beat North Meck. So those are very impressive wins for a team that went winless last year.
Yeah, man. That coach of the year thing you pick at the end of the year, I know how I'd pick, but I mean, that's just me. Sean Nix, Randall, 38 of those things in the 78-76 win over Country Day. He's one of the best players we don't talk about.
His game is so different than his brothers. DJ was a bruiser, big physical force on the inside, and Sean just loves to shoot the three. He can really score it and fill it up. And yes, I agree. He's one of the best players that we don't talk about enough. Great game Friday night versus Country Day.
Yeah, and then Emma Fuller, Randall, 17 points, 13 rebounds, 5 blocks. She was getting busy against Rocky.
Yeah, Emma's really starting to come into her own. She's really developing, especially on the inside, and then being able to step out to 15 feet, 17 points and 13 rebounds to go along with the 5 blocks versus Rocky River. Very impressive night for Miss Fuller. She continues to get better and better.
And, we talk about West Mac, Rick Lewis, and their turnaround. Providence, real quiet, is having a heck of a season up in Southeast Charlotte. And Carson Powell had 20 in the 69-65 win of RGK, had a couple big free throws late. The Panthers had not beaten RGK in like 13, 14 years. I mean, that's a pretty impressive win.
It is. And Providence has won 5 games in a row, but looking at their lineup, they're basically, one senior heavy, player, and the rest of the young players are, juniors and freshmen. So, they're like a year away. So they're sort of ahead of schedule for where they are for this season.
Yeah. And then our last guy, Braylon Gray of Corvian Community, had a career high 32 points and 7 assists against Langtree Charter, sophomore point guard for Coach Ron Murphy. Congratulations, Braylon. That was a great game. One player I didn't put on the list was Lanice Joseph, but I thought she had a tremendous week for North Mecklenburg. And when Richard talked to her after the big win against Mallard Creek.
Certainly, you got your got the big advantage of losing the first time. What was it like to kind of bounce back? Because y'all really kind of jumped on it from the start.
I mean, we kind of knew what we had to do. I felt like the first time we weren't at our full potential, like having the team all together. So, I mean, coming back the second time, we did what was supposed to happen the first time. We got it done. We played hard, and we played North basketball, and it got us the dub.
They're known as the pressing team, and yet you pressed them and caused them all sorts of havoc in the first quarter. Was that the game plan, or were you surprised it worked so well?
No. I mean, when we got a team like that, sometimes you got to give them, like, they got to be able to take it. And we pressed them, they weren't able to take it, and it just helped us in the end.
Now it's tied heading into the second half of the season. Do you think you'll meet them a third time?
Possibly, with this weather. if it happens, it happens.
Right.
If it don't, we good. We go in the playoffs.
How good does it feel to win as comfortably as you won?
I mean, I'm happy for my team. I'm glad we were able to come together as a collective, new team, and just new goals. We got way more talent, and we got goals we want to achieve. So that was a good win.
I love this young lady. I mean, she's as kind as she can be. She's aware. She's also knows about history. And that leads me to my question, Gary, North Meck graduate. If Andrea Stinson is the best player in North Mecklenburg history, who is number 2? Is it Jessica Timmons or is it Lanice Joseph?
Wow, I wasn't expecting that one.
I know. I didn't write that one down. So I had that one.
And let me say first, neither are close to Andrea. Okay?
I didn't ask you were they close. I said who was number 2.
I would say Lanice, and here's why. Size. Size. Now, Jessica was great, and she had to do a lot. Jessica didn't have the team around her that Lanice does. Lanice, Jessica would have to bring it up court. She had to beat the press, and then she'd have to hit 30, and they might only score 40 the whole game.
And she had 30.
Yeah, and she had 30 of them. So, you're better able to see what Lanice is capable of. Lanice can shoot the 3, but that's not what they need her for.
Right.
They need her inside for her inside presence, but she's gonna have to play more outside Depending on where she chooses to go to school, we know she's a D1 prospect,
Right.
but she's going to have to play on the perimeter a little bit more, but she has the skills to do it. But that's not what they ask of her right now. And Jessica Simmons is playing great at Alabama. She was on TV today, and she could still shoot it. She's had to adjust her role, in college from what she was expected to do when she was at North. But I give number 2 at North to Lanice.
All right, I didn't throw that one in. I saw that game. That's what made me think about it. Games of the week this week. Let's start East Meck at Providence. Rick Lewis. We just talked about Providence a little bit. The Panthers need another upset because they need to stay in touch with East Meck, and if they win this one, they can tie for first place.
Well, these are two teams trending in the positive direction. East Meck has won 5 games in a row in 7 of their last 8. And we've said it before, East Meck does have a nice group of players that they all the pieces fit together. They have a really good point guard who's quick. He makes good passes. They got a really good 3-point shooter in Bundaberg. They have an athletic wing in Nixon Wright. And they also have one thing that very few people in the area have is a really good low post presence in Jordan Buzzer. So they have a really good nucleus.
Yeah.
And, for this particular week, we slipped those, East Meck into the Sweet 16. I think they're a team that's trending in the right direction. And the same thing can be said for Providence. Providence has won 5 games in a row. So, you have East Meck at 6-0. Who would have thought it at the beginning of the season?
Yeah.
And you have Providence, I think, is 5-1 in conference play. So this is going to be a very important game. If East Meck can win this game on the road, I think, it's theirs to call, the conference champions.
Yeah, that should be a big one. And then South Meck and West Meck also play on Tuesday night. We talked about West Meck earlier. Myers Park is in the first place in this conference. These two teams are, all bunched up below them. This is a big game too, Rick.
It is. And the one thing that West Meck, they really have played well at home. So they have the 2 big wins at Myers Park and Huff at home.
Yeah.
South Meck is 3-2. You have North at West Meck at 4-2. I think this is a game that, I think Coach Yule has those young players believing that they can contend for a title. I think they'll be a very dangerous team to beat at home.
Yeah, and Randall says I always have to have Charlotte Catholic and Southern Carolina in there, so I got one for you, Randall. Catholic's at Marvin Ridge. Catholic's 2 up. Marvin Ridge is 2 back. If they don't get this one, it's all over.
Yeah, this is a big game for them. I was at the first game, and Jack Siegel and Mac Jordan were phenomenal for Charlotte Catholic. They really got it done on the defensive end. I think the question here, does Marvin Ridge figure out a way to solve Coach King's zone? Coach McCarthy, I'm sure, is going to watch a lot of film and have his team ready to go. That should be a really good game.
And Gary Huff and South Meck hooking up on Friday, allegedly, if we play on Friday. South Meck is also trying to get away in that conference. Can Huff catch him?
I don't think so, but I'm sure Coach Butts will have a plan. I named him as one of the up-and-coming young coaches.
You did.
Downtown. Whatever he chooses to do, his girls are really well coached. You can see them executing against even better talent, but I think they are probably a year away at Huff. South Meck has played well, with the exception of they ran into that North Meck buzzsaw as well. But I just like the guards for South Meck. I think they'll control that game.
Yeah, and then Randall, West Cabarrus and Cox Mill. What do you see in that one?
West Cabarrus has been playing really, really good basketball this year. They're obviously on a win streak, 6 in a row. It really just comes down to taking care of the basketball for them, getting into their stuff, taking care of the basketball, and just being able to execute. Cox Mill, not an easy place to play, so it should be a really good game.
Yeah, they're both chasing Hickory Ridge, and conference play in West Cabarrus is closer. So Cox Mill probably helps Hickory Ridge if they win, but West Cabarrus wants to stay in touch for that potential rematch down the road. All right, there was a tweet that caught my eye this week, because this week I went with Richard Walker over to Gaston College, and I saw a junior college basketball team in a different way for high school kids to get to college. And I saw this tweet the same week. There was a mid-major coach that was quoted. He was saying that, I got to win now. I don't have time to wait. And so that means that, most high school kids are going to be bottom, the last person on the totem pole of recruiting. So then I go over to Gaston College and I hook up with Caleb Seiler, who played at Carmel Christian. Caleb actually started his freshman year at Western Carolina. He redshirted. Then he went to USC Aiken, which is a Division II school. He played. Now he's going back to junior college to get his act together, and now he's a D1 recruit. So this is certainly different route to get to college, but it certainly worked for Caleb. He's averaging like 18-9, Rich, is that right?
Yes.
And he has 9 Division I offers and growing. And I talked to him after the game, but I want to get you guys' thoughts on the backside. Caleb Seiler, how's it been for you coming over here?
It's been good, man. Like coming in, being able to be somewhere where I can be myself and the coach trusts me. Coach told me come here, do what I got to do, play my game, and he's gonna help me out. He's kept his promise.
What have you done since you got here? Your body's definitely changed since I see you guys.
Since I came here, I got a new role where I'm a leader. I'm one of the oldest guys on the team. I done got some experience at both levels coming to JUCO. Mm-hmm. And, being around some younger guys, I just try to tell them the right things, lead them, so share what I experienced at the other levels. Yeah. And honestly, just come out here and just help us win.
Well, Rick, I know this is a subject close to your heart. Tell me about the new state of high school recruiting. What should folks be looking out for?
Well, if you several years ago, if you ask any young recruit, where do you want to play? Everybody would say at the highest level. But with NIL and also the transfer portal, that's no longer the case. And I've said it before, the D2s, D3s, community colleges, and JUCOs are now the farm systems for mid to high major players,
Yeah.
and that's something that people need to understand. It's a step in process. I'm going to give you another example. And this is a remarkable story, and Richard knows about this young man as well. There's a young man that came to one of our events that played for a local travel ball team. It was called, Carolina Clutch, Cap City Clutch, excuse me. And this young man had no D1 offers. As a matter of fact, he got cut by Myers Park when he was at Myers Park. He was probably 5'11". Since then, he went to North Florida Prep out of high school, which was a prep school.
Yeah.
From there, he went to Gaston Community College, which is a 2-year, JUCO.
Yeah.
Well, when he was at North Florida Prep, he played in our event, and they recruited him. Now he's grown to 6'5". Here's a young player that didn't even really make the high school team 3 years ago, and now has a D1 scholarship to Georgia State. And I'm going to take it a step further. Everybody remembers Cam Taylor that played at Carmel Christian a few years ago as well.
Absolutely.
When he was a senior, he had little to no D1 offers. UNC Asheville came in late and secured a commitment from him. He is now a sophomore at UNC Asheville, averaging almost 20 points a game. And UNC Asheville know this is the last year they're going to have him.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to enter the portal, and he's going to be a hot prospect for a high major school. He may get up to $1 million in NIL money going from UNC Asheville to a high major school.
Yeah.
And then other good examples just recently, look at Nick Dorn when he was at Chambers. The only offer he received was from Elon. And I remember the story when Stacy Palmore, who passed away this past year, and we had an event at Chambers, and I was really pushing him to be a D1 player, and he had no D1 scholarships. And I was doing the MC, the play-by-play for the game, the PA stuff. And
Right.
I was, every time he scored, I said, Nick D1 Dorn. And after the game, I said, Stacy, there's no reason why this young man cannot play at Elon. They finally offered him.
Mm-hmm.
He had a very good year at Elon, and now is playing at IU and playing very, very well.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the other person is Cade Tyson, who basically played at Carmel Christian. And I remember his parents coming to me and asking the question, like, he wants to play at the high major level, but he doesn't want to go in the footsteps of his brother Hunter, who had to sit the bench his first 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, that's simple. Just go somewhere where he can do 3 things. He can play early,
Mm-hmm.
he can contribute, and he can develop. In his freshman year, he was all freshman in that particular conference.
At Belmont.
In the Patriot. No.
Belmont.
Yep.
His second year as a sophomore, he was all conference and went from Belmont to UNC. It didn't work out, but he did get $600,000 in NIL going from Belmont to UNC.
Yeah.
But now he's at Minnesota
and killing it,
just crushing it.
Yeah.
The moral of the story is nowadays, as far as recruiting, it's not always going to the highest level. In college coaches, like you said before, they want to win now. So they're getting older, more mature, physically developed players that can come in and contribute right away. They're not developing high school kids. They don't have time for it. And even if they do develop a high school player and spend all that money and time and effort into get him to the player he should be, they worry about him transferring anyway in the portal. So the whole thing as far as recruiting has completely changed. My recommendation to any young player today is put the blinders off. Don't think it's D1 or bust. Go somewhere where you can play right away, you contribute, you develop, and you have the opportunity to transfer up if that's your intent, purpose that you want to do. And that's really it in a nutshell.
Yeah, Richard, it's funny because I'm not endorsing Gaston College. I'm just saying it is a path for people to go to high school, go to JUCO, and they have a coach at Gaston College, Benny Morris, who coached 33 years, played at Charlotte, coached at Charlotte, coached at Coastal, coached at UNCW, knows everybody, tells me I have 33 years of contacts. Why wouldn't you want to come here? Why is that a really good alternative for a lot of high school kids, Richard?
Well, I was going to say that the coaches at my school for all sports say all these coaches are under fire. So if you're a high school kid that's offered in November and you don't take it, well, when the second signing day comes up in April, they've looked at all the film of everybody who can play and what they've done at whatever level they've played, and they know how they project in college. They don't want to give it. They don't want to take a flyer on a high school kid on a projection. And that's really going to help our Gaston College athletics. I mean, our baseball, softball, and basketball teams have really benefited from all that because we've gotten all kinds of guys come back from D1, or particularly in baseball and softball, they'll go play fall ball as true freshmen and go, whoa, I'm not getting to play, but if I go to this junior college, I can play right away. And Benny, we've talked about this before. It's kind of interesting. His backstory is almost transfer portal before it was cool. He goes to UNC Charlotte out of East Surrey High School, has some ankle injuries. He isn't able to play a lot. I think he had to redshirt a year. He transfers to Pfeiffer, where Bobby Lutz was building them a huge NAI at the time powerhouse.
Yeah.
And he ends up getting into coaching through that. So Benny has seen it from that way as well. So Benny's the perfect guy to kind of see this because he was, 30 years ahead of the game. It was kind of back then, if you were a Division I guy, you could be eligible immediately. If you went down to NAI, D2, D3, you couldn't transfer with another D1, but you went down a level, you played right away. And Benny took advantage of that, and he was on some of those great Pfeiffer teams they had that were, mainstays at the NAI National Tournament in Kansas City back in those days.
Yeah.
And here's another positive, Langston, for especially local, regional, and statewide kids. These schools, such as Gaston Community College and a lot of the D2s and JUCOs, they don't have the budget to travel and recruit. They're recruiting locally.
Yeah.
So,
the whole roster is like kids I used to cover. Yeah.
And here's the thing, especially at the travel ball level.
Yeah.
These kids don't have to travel halfway across the country not to be seen when these players can be seen by coaches, just like what we're saying at Gaston Community College. And it seems like almost every kid that's going there is getting a scholarship offer to a D1 or a D2's level.
They had 30 coaches on campus watching them early in the year, which is crazy in this day and time. Randall, you have some thoughts?
I was actually on the phone with the coach today at a prep school up in the north, and just to hear him talk and the difference now, for recruiting purposes, like it has to make sense. If you're going to go to a prep school, like it has to change where you're at. So if you're a D3 kid, it's got to move you to D2, D2 to D1, D1 to mid-major. And what you're noticing more is that, high school kids are looking for different routes like we're talking about in order to get to that level. So Yes, and talking to him, it's just the importance of understanding, what you're doing and what you're trying to do, and making sure that if you are going to go prep, that it makes sense.
Yeah, and Gary is the resident former high school coach on the panel. Your thoughts about this new direction of high school recruiting? What do you think about this alternate route type of situation versus the traditional route?
Well, of course, I prefer the traditional route, but things change and you have to evolve with it as a high school coach. And I wouldn't say parents have to evolve, because this is what they know now. Right. They jump around from AAU to AAU. They jump around from high school to high school. Yeah. And we see it in at the high school level. And the real reason that they do it is not for winning, it's for exposure so that they can get a scholarship.
Correct.
Somewhere, and I thought it was interesting what, I don't know whether it was Richard or Rick just said, is you get an offer in November, you better take it. Yep. Because that second window is for all transfers.
I think it's super important as a high school kid to go where you're wanted now, more so than ever. Like the days of I'm waiting on Carolina, I'm waiting on Duke, I'm waiting on State, like those days are over. You got if you get an offer, you got to go somewhere where you're wanted, and then work your way up from there.
And one other thing I'll point out about the junior colleges, Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt sued and won his case to be able to play extra years because he started at junior college.
Yeah.
Our coaches at Gaston College aren't quite sure that's going to hold up, but should it continue to hold up in court? Think of what was going to happen. What can happen?
Have an avalanche.
You go to junior college for 2 years, and then you got 4 years in an NCAA institution, and really you got 5 years to play 4.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious to see if that changes, if someone sues, if the NCAA fights back. They've not shown any indication to do so. They're not fighting back against these guys that are going G League, from G League back to the college ranks. So I tend to think that if you're really thinking about the welfare of your student athlete, a junior college is a good way to go. And again, I work at one, but I'm saying any one of them, because you get 2 years of prep school in essence, and then you can hawk your wares for 5 years to a Division I or Division II or Division III school, your choice.
And with more than 300 JUCOs in 3 different divisions that I learned, that could crush high school recruiting if that were to happen, where you could get an extra 2 years penalty free. All right, it's time for my
thing is kids and parents are gonna have to be patient because they hear all this NIL talk.
Yes.
And they want to get that NIL talk. And I heard Deion Sanders say something that made a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. He's saying that kids now are chasing the bag instead of letting their skills determine what the bag will be in the future. Because you really are not going to get the bag, as they say, until you make it to the professional ranks. There are a few college kids that are making big money, and that's why they keep going back. Pavia, because he knows he's not going to get it at the next level. He's only 5'9", and they don't like 5'9" quarterbacks. But my point is, you have to have some impatience and invest in your skills instead of thinking, if I just can get to that D1 school, I'm going to get paid. Because you're not going to get paid for long if you don't produce as a freshman in college.
That's a great point.
Well, think about this too: is as an 18-year-old senior stepping onto a college campus, and you're there as one of the very few freshmen on the team, and the balance of the roster is made up of 22, 23, 24-year-old men. That's a big difference.
Yeah, Queens Grand Coach Joe Badger tells me, you look on the sideline, you see guys waving to their wives and children now in college basketball. It's a different world. All right, it's time for my favorite part of the show. I have to apologize. I did not get our intro fixed, but I'm going to play the intro. We're going to get into Coach versus Coach. All right,
I don't even want the intro anymore. Like we just keep it old school. I miss Mr. Bass, and I think this is our tribute to him. That's what I'm calling it. So we're just gonna keep it.
I promise I will get it fixed.
I said it wasn't gonna be fixed by the edit.
You did say that. Gary, are you? We can't say receiving. Are you going first?
I'm gonna let the arrow. We could say the arrow.
The arrow. Okay.
The arrow. RC gets the arrow.
RC gets the arrow. All right. This is a really good question for RC, by the way. Really
oh my gosh, I know what the question is.
Should North Carolina build a new gym north of campus or rebuild the Dean Dome where it sits?
Nah, rebuild the Dean Dome where it sits. If you feel like if you can't renovate and you feel like you gotta bust it down, just go ahead and rebuild it where it's at. There's nothing better than going to the Dean Dome on a Saturday night and getting to watch the Blue Devils beat the Tar Heels.
I've seen you at the Dean Dome on a Saturday night wearing Chapel Hill stuff. We're going to talk about it. Gary, go ahead. Question.
I when I went to Carolina, I lived in a dorm called Morrison. Of course, know where it is, Langston.
Absolutely.
But for my first 3 years at Carolina, I could come out on my balcony and look at the construction of the Dean Dome.
Yeah.
Okay. I got to see it go from the foundation, and I was at the very first game. So I'm sentimental to leaving it on campus.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're talking about another spot on campus called Odom Village, which is like a block down the road. Used to be Merritt student housing. I'd like for it to stay on campus, though. I think kids need to be able to walk to the games, but I understand what the administration is thinking. They got to come up with all kind of revenue just because of NIL, and they're not generating that revenue
because they got all free seats in there.
Yeah, they don't have club seats, they don't have skyboxes, and that's what you need. And there are not many arenas in the ACC that do. I think Virginia does, of course, State does, but State doesn't own the building.
Could you not renovate and add those things and keep the building where it is? I
don't see why you couldn't, but I think they're looking at the cost. If you pay a $500 million to renovate, and then a new one would just cost $1 billion. I think they're trying to get more of the campus spread out. I think one of the things you're going to see, regardless of where they put it, is UNC enrollment is going to dramatically increase. It's always been a very exclusive state school to get into.
Yeah,
but
it's hard to get in.
Need that student fees and all the other kind of money that they can attach on to the tuition to pay some of these athletes. So I think we get ready to go from a school of 30,000 to a school of maybe 45 to 50,000.
That's crazy.
Just to get that revenue.
That's crazy. Well, it could happen. All right, Gary. Should CMS and other districts punt on conference tournaments to avoid mashing the schedule together too much for all these snow makeup games?
Heck yeah, because there's no competition. I'm going to just say it. Nobody wants to go to the first round and watch a bunch of bad teams play. And these ADs need to get off their high horse thinking, well, we're going to get a cut of the money, because you're not making any money. You're not making any money for a blowout. Okay? So quit crying that, we want our kids to have an opportunity. Your kids had an opportunity for 3 months to get better than 5th or 6th place. Okay? Nobody wants to see those games anymore. So let's just get rid of it. Say 1st and 2nd. We're going to let y'all play a 3rd game, because here's the biggest problem. We're talking about eliminating the conference tournament because of the weather, trying to push so many games in over the next 2 weeks in time for the state playoffs. But here's the biggest problem is because of the state playoff format. It used to be if you were a team that made a run in the conference tournament, you could change your seeding. You could go from being a 5th place or 4th place seed all the way to a 2nd place seed for purpose of state playoff seeding.
Right.
But the state doesn't use that method anymore. Now you could be a conference champion and be as low as a 15, 16 seed in the state playoffs.
That's great.
So the conference tournament is obsolete based on how teams in the playoffs. So that's why I say go on and get rid of it and get back to this city championship idea that we've all promoted the last 3 years.
Randall's like Skip Bayless. It's my turn.
Finally, good gracious. You can't get rid of it. Can't get rid of it. I know I'm the only person on this panel that loves the conference tournament, But it's every year we say, oh, we got to get rid of it. We got to get rid of it. Then we have some 4 or 5 seed that goes through and ends up winning it. We have too many good conferences in Charlotte to just go ahead and punt the conference tournament. Now, I will agree, that being said, them changing the rules and it not mattering for the state playoffs, it makes my argument very, very, very difficult to win. Yeah. But I understand that, and I'm still saying keep it in place just because I like being
the contrarian.
Gotta be the contrarian sometimes.
All right.
He's doing it because Alex's name is still on our program.
I think that's what it is.
Trying to act like Alex.
That's what it is. All right, Randall, last question. Should we end the post-game handshake line in certain games or games where it gets really heated? And before you go, I want to show y'all a little bit of what happened after the West Charlotte game. So the video goes on and on, but what happens is there's several different altercations on the court, off the court, over to the left side. North Meck assistant coach Clark Kemp was pushed to the floor by a West Charlotte player. He just had 2 shoulder surgeries on his shoulder. He landed on the shoulder. He just had the shoulder surgeries on. 2 North Meck players did not play on Friday. I do not know how that is directly how this thing affected that. CMS says they're investigating. Obviously, they're not going to tell us about children and what happens. But all that said, back to my question. If there's no handshake line, that doesn't happen. Should we end post-game handshake lines in certain games or games where it gets really heated?
Rivalry games, absolutely. I think even in some circumstances, you have a game that ends on a buzzer beater, close games, like at the school's discretion, hey, we're not going to shake hands, send the school to your locker room. I believe we have a lot of highly contested games where handshake's probably not a good idea. South Meck versus Aldrich Hill or South Meck versus Myers Park is another one of the games. Like it's gonna be heated, it's gonna be packed. Like those type of situations, we already know beforehand. It's a heated rivalry. Like we don't need to do that. Don't even put these athletes in these certain situations. I think West Charlotte had enough security, but there are certain things that we have to just do better. And knowing the game, knowing the rivalry, like let both teams just go their separate ways and get to their locker room.
Gary,
no, that's the easy way. That's the easy way. Like Alec would say, the thing we get from athletics is learning. You're being educated. Education-based athletics is Alec's favorite. Kids have to learn how to win, and they also have to learn how to lose, how to behave in those situations. In Dwayne's interview, he said he didn't see it. If you look at it, he didn't. He kept going down the road, shaking hands. What I would do to change this is, you see where he's standing now? Don't leave. Now he's moving down the video, and he's just showing sportsmanship. And the coach from my other team is doing the same thing. The coaches shake hands right in front of the scorer's table, and they should stay there. Let the players come to them instead of them going to the players. Okay, and then if they can see something breaking out, but we can't take the easy road and say, whenever we win, we're not going to shake hands, or whenever we lose, we're not going to shake hands. Now, one solution that I heard in our little group discussion earlier, our group chat by text, was to do it before the game. Okay.
This NCHSA does that in the state championship game. You shake before the game.
Yeah, that's a good compromise, I think. But just to say, because we lost, we're not going to shake hands. you have to. One of the things sports teaches you is how to live and deal with adversity.
I understand.
And you got.
I got you. I understand that point, but I don't. In my opinion, it's not about winning and losing. It's about safety. I'm not blaming this situation was actually started by the winning team, not the losing team. So that's what I'm saying. Like it's not about winning and losing. It's about people's safety and trying to keep this from happening.
This weekend we had 3 of these. We had one of the very same thing happened in Pennsylvania between two teams, and there was an HBCU game where a similar thing happened, and the coach actually got put in handcuffs because he was trying to be peacemaker. I'm just saying, Gary, I'd rather avoid these situations. Like Randall said, you can almost pick the games that are going to Monroe, Forest Hills when they play. You can pick the games that you know are going to be heated and just shake before the game in those games. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying every single game. I just don't want to see this situation. I don't want to see North Mac be down their best player for a couple of games or West Charlotte be without a player for a couple of games. You just don't want to see that. My thought. Rick, what do you think? You're on mute though, Rick. You got to come off mute. You're on mute, Rick. We can't hear you. You're saying great things, but we can't hear you. He has no idea he's on mute. No idea. Rich, you got anything?
Well, the before the game makes some sense because it made sense in the high school football games because they feel like whomever wins the game is going to be really celebrating with themselves. Yeah. And I thought it worked out fine in the football setting. Now, is that perfect for everybody? Maybe not, but at least it gives a semblance of sportsmanship. And I don't disagree at all with Gary's point that, they should learn about winning and losing. But as you say, we want to avoid this kind of circumstance ever happening again.
Yeah, and we see it too often. I just think it's time. Richard.
Well, I thought Gary and Randall both made compelling arguments on both sides of the equation. It's one of those things that you're going to have 50% of the people that will criticize if you don't have the handshake line saying, sportsmanship is key to education-based athletics. And then you also have the safety issue. But I think, Gary, I like the one point where, instead of the coaches going down the line is you have your coaches and assistant coaches basically spread out where the players come to you and make sure that nothing sort of is set out of line or anything gets out of line in that situation.
Yeah, and so long as the players come to you and then turn around and go the other way. That's it. That's an interesting conversation. I just really think we got to avoid these types of situations. The easiest way to do that to me is just don't have the situation because if there not been a handshake line this past Thursday, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So.
And I also think the other good thing is if we don't have handshake lines, now security can just make sure that kids aren't coming onto the floor.
Correct.
And that's another reason, and that also helps us.
Particularly in a game like that when there's so many people and it's just so that Richard Walker would tell you that game from start to finish was animated. Just the crowd was animated, the players were animated. Every basket was like the end of the world. Everybody's all swole up after every basket.
The crowd was animated in the JV game.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but you can feel that. You can feel that energy, and that's a great thing about high school sports. And all the guys are, doing Instagram videos. Everybody wants a social media moment. So every basket is going to be a point, a gun salute, or whatever. I just think in these types of situations where everybody's emotions are already amped up way higher than they normally are, let's not create a situation where the combatants are coming together after a close emotional game. Anyway, I'll stop talking.
The other thing too, Richard, and Langston, in that situation too, that compared to the Chambers North Met game where they had the ejection of the player.
Yeah,
I saw in a lot of the highlights on both teams that several of the players was doing either some type of gesture, whether it was a gun salute or
every
bow and arrow. Those things were being utilized during the course of the game.
Yeah,
and then it's sort of like the difference between the officiating in the North Mech Chambers game versus the West Charlotte North Mech game was a little bit different. I thought in the North Mech West Charlotte game, they allowed more, gestures, a little bit more barking between the players than what happened at the game at North Mech.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Well, the crowd definitely contributed to that as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right. It's time for your final thought.
One more thing that we noticed at a lot of these schools,
Yes.
is that both teams are exiting to the same door.
Yeah, don't like that.
And I can't stand that.
The home team needs to sit on the bench while the visitors go.
Yeah. You can't have them going down the same hallway. I mean, my old school North Mech, they go out in the same door. The locker rooms are right beside each other. I mean, in those little cramped areas.
Yeah, you asking for trouble.
You're asking for trouble. You got to figure out a way to keep the teams from going to the locker room out of the same exit at the same time.
Yeah. At minimum, one team should go and the other team after that. We do that in biddy ball, as I call it. Randall, your final thoughts for the day.
Be where your feet are. I think a lot of times for players and coaches and even us as adults, it's very easy to look at the next thing. You know, you got seniors that are talking about college already. You got, your underclassmen who are thinking about AAU and travel ball already. And I think we just need to focus and be where you are. There's a lot of the season left, and we're getting to the final stretch of it. And for some people, this might be the last time that the ball is bouncing. So just enjoy this final stretch, be a great teammate, and try to make this playoff run.
Absolutely. Great final thoughts as usual. That is another wrap. I was trying to make it under an hour, but y'all just kept going. I was trying. I was almost there.
Oh, my gosh. 61 minutes instead of 60. So
I was almost there. All right. That is Rick Lewis, the number one voice of high school basketball. You guys hear it every week. So fortunate to have him. Richard Walker, the only man in Charlotte's worked longer than me. And that's really true in media. That's really true. Gary Richmond, the former CMS coach, my frat brother, and there's Randall Clark, the best trainer I know. And we are done talking Preps.